Today is June 15th, 2021. I'm Diane Barrett. I'm interviewing my partner for the BE collection, Margaret Elfering, MD. I'd like to thank you for participating in this interview.
As your spouse, I could never deny it.
We've been together many years. She knows the drill. But for the sake of the interview, let's start with your beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Long Beach, California.
And did you remain in California after that?
Remained in California in Torrance until I was 4.
And then where did you?
My parents, my sister, brother, and I all moved to Eastern Oregon. It's called Malheur County. There's one person per square mile in that county, which during the Second World War, no one was worried about it being bombed by the Japanese.
No one could find it.
Yeah, or they'd drop a bomb and not hit anybody.
So it was a small population.
Small population.
I remember going there. They had more churches than any place I'd ever been.
About one per block.
That's right.
I would say there's like 12. So by the time I was 10, I knew that nobody really believed in what they preached.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knew what everybody did.
No secrets.
No secrets. And you know, this guy was having an affair with this guy. And so religion became a strange thing of people who preached but didn't believe.
Hmm. And did you have siblings?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I had my older sister, a brother about a year younger, and then another 6 years and 2 brothers and another sister. So 6 altogether.
Large family.
Large family.
What occupations did your parents fill?
My mother, when we were in Los Angeles, was the premier secretary for Mr. Shore of Ship and Shore Blouses.
Really?
Yeah. And when they went to Oregon, my father, they were farmers. And then eventually my father became the county sheriff.
Did you participate in farming as a
Yes.
child?
Well, you don't have a choice. You're out there thinning beets and things like that. Beet thinning for a kid isn't too bad because you're already close to the ground. But it's one
Good
of those
point.
bent over things like strawberries. When I was, 14, 15, I went to work in the strawberry fields. Lasted one day. I'm too tall for strawberries.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
I always said if I picked strawberries, it'd be like $1,000 a pint,
Yes.
just because of that back problem.
Whoa, that you crawl sideways through the plants.
So you participated in the farming part of your family business.
Yes.
What was it like being the daughter of a sheriff?
That was awful.
Was it?
Yeah, because you never knew who was going to be really angry with him and come look for his family.
Huh, did that actually happen?
No.
But you worried about it?
But you knew it could happen
Uh-huh.
any time. And, as a 8 or 9-year-old, you didn't know what you would do about it. Because he had to do the sheriff's job. My brother and I did the farm job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I became a doctor. I was standing on top of the back of a truck, 2.5-ton truck, full of silage, corn silage. And that smells so bad. Yeah, and it's very alcohol. And pitching that into the bins for the animals, for the cows. And it was early in the morning. Sun was not cold, was just coming up, and the sheriff, or the doctor drives by in his nice warm Cadillac.
Was this winter?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He has on his hat with those things that tie over the top that are fur, and his fur coat. And I said, I'm going to do that, not this.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first indication. That might be where I would go.
Did you share that with your brother?
No.
No.
His
So it was a
business
private
really-
thought.
That was a private thought. What he did was his thing. But, colder than, because in Eastern Oregon, it gets 20, 30 below. It's cold.
Did it snow?
Not much.
Really?
It's sort of a dry cold. It's very cold.
When did you share that you wanted to be a doctor with someone that could help you go in that direction?
I was probably senior in high school,
Uh-huh.
junior or senior in high school. The assistant principal was a woman who I still admire to this day, Mrs. Hester.
Mm-hmm.
And she sort of took interest in each and every senior
That's great.
to try and help them get into some occupation that they would be able to be successful at.
Huh.
So you'd get an IQ test, an aptitude test. There are a couple other tests that you would get. And then she would sit down, well, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And if all of these tests matched with what you wanted, she would show you how to get there. Sort of. She'd say, well, you go to this school and you do this and you do that. And write to every school and see what the requirements are for medical school so you're sure you get them while you're in college, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And very helpful.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
How many were in your class?
In high school?
Uh-huh.
Somewhere around 100.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. Well,
A lot of Mrs. Hester working.
yes. Actually, the school encompassed an area from approximately 30 miles north to 30 miles south to 30 miles west. So it's a large area.
Large distance.
Yeah.
Did you have any other inspirational teachers when you were in high school?
Not in high school, in
Uh-huh.
grammar school.
In grammar school?
Grammar school, my second grade teacher. I couldn't spell. I still don't spell well, as you know.
Right.
And so she was trying to teach me how to spell. We weren't getting anywhere. And she came back to working with me one day, and she said, my husband read your paper to me out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You're a great thinker. When you get older, just get yourself a secretary that can spell. So I did.
Or a spouse.
Or a spouse. And
That came much later, though.
yeah, when I was in college, my mother typed all my papers for me. I'd
Uh-huh.
call her on the phone and dictate it over the phone, and she was such a fabulous secretary. She'd take it down shorthand and have it back to me in 2 days.
She was a smart woman.
Yeah, she says she went to college with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She probably enjoyed it.
Well, it worked for me, I'll tell you, because she never misspelled a word that I know.
And just the format of someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, she was really, I knew that everything that needed one of those things down below would happen.
Mm-hmm.
She just knew where to put it. My mother was also the one that says, nobody knows how wealthy you are until you speak.
Huh.
And then they judge by your language. So be sure your language is correct.
Were you glad to graduate high school and move on to college?
Oh, yes.
Were you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
When were you sexually aware of your sexual preference?
Well, I don't know exactly when,
Uh-huh.
but certainly by the time I was a junior in high school. I
Okay.
had a girlfriend at that point,
Mm-hmm.
which was significantly problematic.
In what manner?
Well, there was one not too long before she went to college. She was a year ahead of me,
Uh-huh.
and she went to some dance or something with a boyfriend in Ontario, which is about 12 miles away. And I, of course, did not participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And about 1 o'clock in the morning, my the phone rings, and it's her mother. Is she at your house? No, she's not. And then, no, she is not here. She went to this dance with Stephen, and I don't know anything about it. Well, then in about a half hour, she was at our back door.
Oh, goodness.
Where's my daughter? Yeah,
Oh, the mother didn't believe you.
No,
Uh-huh.
and I had no idea where she was.
Uh-huh.
And the mother actually walked all the way downstairs to my bedroom.
Wow. Had she been there before?
Who?
The mother?
No, but she insisted that I lead her down to where my bedroom was.
See if her daughter was there.
Yeah.
Really?
I
Where
was
was your
obviously
father?
lying. My father was standing at the top of the stairs going, what? You know?
Uh-huh.
And of course, when the mother left, she says, "That's the end of that. Get rid of it."
Mm-hmm. That's probably good advice.
Yeah. Well, he's a public employee, you know.
Right.
So.
Did you date men at all, or boys?
No,
No.
never did.
Mm-hmm.
I one time was out with a bunch of friends, and I looked at the guys in the car, and I said, "I can take care of myself better than they can. I'll take care of myself." Yep. So I did.
And you have.
Yeah, I have. But the college was a different thing because my parents insisted I go to a Catholic university, and I think they suspected my lesbian being, I wasn't doing anything, but just me.
Your style.
My style, my whatever. And I changed schools at the end of my sophomore year because I knew they were going to throw me out.
The school?
Huh. The dean of women was going to toss me out on my head, and I could not afford that.
Because she suspected you were lesbian?
Yeah. She cooked up every kind of possible reason to campus me, which means I was in the dorm from Friday afternoon until Monday morning. Which is all right. I had a lot of studies to do. But, pretty rude.
Pretty rude. Right.
Pretty rude. And I got the word that she was it was the week before finals that she was going to toss me out.
Really?
Yeah.
Not fair.
Take all my money and toss me out.
So how'd you get to stay then?
Well, there was a small rule somewhere, but when I checked it with the dean's office, it was true. If you had a reason to leave school early, a valid reason to leave school early, and all of your professors agreed to your grades, and they were a B or better, you could leave without taking the finals.
Really? That was a good thing to figure out.
Oh my God. I mean, I'll tell you, I had 2 very, very busy days getting these professors to sign my papers.
Then where did you transfer to?
To the University of Portland, another Catholic school.
Another Catholic school.
Not as rigid. And the dean of women was a beautiful young woman. Could care less who I was. It worked fine.
Good.
It worked fine.
Then your next step was medical school?
Yes.
And during this time of education, did you have any relationships with women? No.
No, as advised by the vice principal, she said, don't. They'll throw you out. If they have absolute knowledge that you are a lesbian, they'll throw you out of school. So just keep your nose clean until you get out of school. Which is basically what she said.
You had a lot of school ahead of you yet.
I know. I had 8 years of school after that. Well, actually more than that. 13 years, including training. But she called it. You just don't let them know who you are.
But this is part of who you are. When you have a direction, you stick with it.
Oh, you betcha. I knew where I was heading. Whether or not I could get there, I didn't know. And in the 1960s, there was a lot of, how do I say it, freedoms coming through, freedom for blacks to do this and that, and freedom for women. Title IX came through, things like that. So they were looking at universities and colleges and programs and saying, if you don't have women, we're not going to support you financially from the federal government. So they were looking for women to get into the programs.
That included your medical class.
Oh, you bet. We had 5 in my medical school class, 5 women out of 80, which was the most they'd ever had. 1, maybe 2, but we had.
Did all of those women graduate with you?
Yes. Well, no, there was one that did not. She got pregnant and waited a year to graduate.
And you graduated medical school.
I graduated medical school and I wanted to come back to California, so I internshiped at LA County Hospital, LA County USC. A great internship. You just got to do everything, I mean, you really got a wide expanse of knowledge and abilities. And I ran into somebody by the name of J. Paul Harvey.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. I was sitting in a big room where all the interns for orthopedics were, and the resident handling it said to me, he said, "Do you want to become an orthopedist?" What do you say? What do you say? So
I'm sitting here.
yeah, I said, well, for a month, which is the length of
The
the rotation. And so that was the end of that sort of thing. But later in the rotation, J. Paul Harvey, the MD, the chief of the department, asked me if I wanted a residency in orthopedics. And I really hadn't thought of it before that, but it really fit with my personality, with the things I like to do, with things like that. So I said, of course.
So what did that part of your personality did that connect with?
Let's see. Primarily, I see things in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine 3D, and that's essential for that. It's a very mechanical specialty where you put things together, and it's sort of like carpentry, except it's more fun and pays better. At least now.
I don't know.
That may change, but it
That's
doesn't
right.
at the moment.
I think it's in the midst of change.
But it's a great specialty,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing I don't deal with very well is death.
Mm-hmm.
So orthopedics really doesn't have that. It has injuries and disabilities and inabilities, but it doesn't really, most of the time, there's not a death feature. Everybody says that a woman who breaks her hip will die within the first year after doing so. Mm-hmm. And what I do is the patient usually come in at night and be in the hospital, and I go to meet them as I'm the doctor. And I take hold of their wrist and their hand, and I said, hang on. Nope. Hang on. I'm going to get you through this. And away they'd go. We'd come right on through it. They'd go home.
I've seen you do
It was, I don't know where I learned it, but somewhere I learned if I got them to grab a hold of me, away that they would survive it. And they did.
Mm-hmm.
I only remember 2 deaths. One was terrible, and the other was a woman who decided to die. She was a woman who was nasty personality,
Mm-hmm.
and her family would not take her home.
Really?
And she would not go to a nursing home. She said, I'll die before I do that. And she
did.
She did. I was amazed that somebody could will themselves to
Mm-hmm.
death that fast. That's what I was amazed. But it was good.
She did.
And I met you during my training
Uh-huh.
at LA County. I didn't know you were a lesbian at the time. But the way you touched me, whoa!
Now this is a really good story.
Yeah, I'm at the operating room table.
I was the head nurse in orthopedic surgery when Marge was a resident, and there was a attending position there that had a really difficult personality.
To say the least.
To say the least, right. And when people are doing surgery, they have what is called a sterile field, and no one can enter the sterile field unless they're part of it. And I was not part of it. I was a circulator. Okay, you can tell the rest of the story.
So here I am. This chap was just a miserable individual.
He was.
And if you breathe funny, he would start screaming at you because you moved the field. So you're holding this hand for him. And she comes along and she does this thing on the back of my neck with her hand. Oh, God, and I'm trying to hold still. Right? Impossible. I was more than happy to leave that operating room that day. Tell you.
So that sort of gave you the idea that
Yeah, maybe
it
you
wasn't
weren't straight. But that was fun. Then I finished LA County. I started working for Kaiser. And in 1976, it was evident that the law was going to be changed and you could no longer lose your license because you were gay or lesbian. Before that, if somebody outed you and complained, you could lose your license simply because you were homosexual. And I didn't want to do that. So at that point, 1976, the law started to change, and in 1977, it was changed, and I went into private practice and had a very successful private practice. And Diane,
Where did you go?
Oh, I went to Santa Maria, California, which is just south of San Luis, between San Luis and Santa Barbara. And let's see, that was 1977, and then we established our relationship in 1977 again.
We started in 75.
And then again in 77, and then had our own wedding, what I call the first, it was the first of three. I've been married 3 times, never divorced. But that was our own personal commitment ceremony. Mm-hmm. And then, again, what was it, 2008?
2008, I think, was the next one.
And then again,
when it became legal.
When it became legal again. I think 2008 was California's legal, and we did it a year or two before in Portland because Oregon for temporary in Portland had marriage ceremonies. So we were. I was really delighted when with the Supreme Court's decision to recognize gay marriage. Not on a personal basis, because I've really felt married ever since '78. No question about that. The question was the economic impact of that was tremendous, because how the IRS views gay marriages now is important economically. Before that, we were doing all sorts of things with charitable remainder trusts and things like that, so that our economics would survive the death of one or the other of us.
Let me ask a couple questions about being a surgeon. So, what was the first surgery you did solo?
Oh, that was funny. At the University of Portland, or the University of Oregon, it was winter and I was on general surgery. And I like skiing, and the mountain's not that far away, so they'd make rounds at like 6 o'clock in the morning. By 7:30, I had my chores done, and I'd go skiing. And then I'd come back for rounds at 4:30 to 5. So one day the sun came out on the mountain, and I didn't have a sunburn in the morning, and I did in the afternoon. And the chief surgeon said, "You will do the next surgery." I said, "What is it?" It's what was it?
Prior to that, you hadn't performed any?
No, I hadn't even been in the operating room because I figured I could go skiing while they did all that. Because where are you as a student in the operating room? Back behind, you can't see anything. You're in the back of the room. So I'd rather be skiing. So anyhow, I went home and I read how to do a herniorrhaphy.
That was the surgery.
That was the surgery. And I read it, memorized it, and the next morning at 7 o'clock I did a herniorrhaphy. And the chief and the surgeon and the chief resident just stood there and watched me do it. They didn't say a word. And I got all done with it and sewed it up, put a bandage on.
That's not an easy surgery.
No, it's not. You got
It's common, but not easy.
Well, you have to be careful not to do it too tight or too loose and all this stuff. And it told you in the book how to do it. So I did it. And I finished it up, put the bandage on, and the chief surgeon looked at me and he says, "You're going to be a surgeon."
What a compliment.
Yeah. Well, it was a compliment that they didn't take it away from me.
They were prepared to.
They were prepared to,
Right.
but they didn't take it away from me. Yeah. He said, "Why haven't you been in the operating room?" I said, "Because I can't see anything from the back of the room."
Right.
And you can't. You know that.
Right.
You can't see a thing from the back of the room.
So did that facilitate moving closer to the operating table?
No,
No, you still would be in the back.
I still did a lot of skiing. Portland is not that far from Mount Hood.
I know.
It's a great ski area.
Did you have a lot of boards to take when you finished your residency?
Oh, one.
One.
Mm-hmm. You, it was in Chicago. It was a 2-day test, one written, and the next day you had 3 or 4 interviews.
Mm-hmm. How'd you do on those? Obviously you passed.
Obviously I passed. I don't know any. They don't tell you how you rate, just whether or not you made it or not.
That's true.
So I became the 25th woman in the United States to ever be a board certified orthopedic surgeon.
So how many women are board certified now as orthopedic surgeons?
You know, I'm really not sure. I think somewhere around 400. Around. I don't know. If you call the board, they won't tell you.
Well, I did.
Did they tell you?
Yeah, 6.5% of 30,000 orthopedic surgeons,
Okay, so 1%. How many? 30,000?
approximately. Yeah. You're right. They were not really.
Yeah.
Some people don't sign up for the board. One thing, they don't belong to the AAOS.
Oh no, that's different. AAOS is a club,
Right.
of orthopedic surgeons.
Right.
Board certified is a
Different.
It's totally different. The certification is something that says yes, you can do that specialty.
Mm-hmm.
The AAOS is a Academy of Orthopedic Surgery. It's a group of doctors. Let's see.
Not too many is what I came up with.
No,
Right. You're still in the outstanding numbers.
still in the rarity.
What was it like being on call 24/7 and all the emergencies coming into the hospital and ortho trauma and having to sort through everything?
It was, you just did it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to say it. You're on call. You're basically on 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what's coming your way. You just do it as it lands. LA County was a tough one.
Great experience.
Oh yeah,
Without a lot of supervision.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the supervision wasn't that good.
Right. I used to think if I got a gunshot wound to the heart, I'd want to go there.
Oh yeah, no question.
You know, for good
Gunshot wounds anywhere. But basically they have a really, well, you just learned so much.
Mm-hmm. Were you in a relationship at that time when you were?
Not as an intern, I think somewhere between my first and second year in residency, and with a physical therapist.
Mm-hmm.
She and I had a relationship for 5 to 6 years.
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out to be not very effective, but that was a different issue.
How were you personally feeling about your sexuality at that time?
I knew who I was.
Uh-huh.
I knew who I was when I was in high school. I knew who I was in college. I called it the closet with the glass door.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who wanted to look would see who I was. I wasn't very good at covering. But
You weren't. That was good.
huh?
You were not.
No, I wasn't. I was just me.
Right.
And
I appreciated that.
thank you. But I don't recall ever trying to really hide it, except by not activating it.
And I think Dr. Harvey just stuck his neck out by recruiting you. You were the first female resident that I recall being in the program, his program.
I'm pretty sure I was the first LA County woman resident
Right.
at LA County. And as I said, looking back at the historical dates of things, I think it had to do with USC and LA County wanting federal funds.
Right.
And they had to get a woman in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. You were a good choice.
So he chose me and I was happy. So.
Plus, he admired you. He appreciated your effort. He was very close to the residents and their performance. And
Well, I'll
he
never
didn't
forget.
hold back.
I'll never forget. I was in the operating room with another staff,
Mm-hmm.
and the hip would not go together well. Didn't matter what I did, it wasn't doing very well. And finally, at least we got it together, even though it was not good. It was okay, is the way I would say it. And that staff person insisted that we take it down and start over again.
Oh, no.
I said, it's against the rules. He said, no, you'll do it because that's what needs to be done. So we did, and then we couldn't get it together. So the patient left the operating room in traction.
Oh, wow.
Well, J. Paul Harvey, we have the main rounds, and I thought he was going to eat me alive. Because we'd taken it apart when we had it sort of together. And, he just let me have it.
Uh-huh.
So I walked out in the hall after the meeting, and he came out, and I said, I did not choose to do that. He said, I know, but the person who told you to do that needed to be told.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he was telling that staff person.
Mm-hmm. Was the staff person there?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he was there.
So what was it like to move into Santa Maria?
Well, first of all, you got to remember that in 1977, the Sexual Freedom Act came through. That was one. So I wasn't going to be thrown out of I wasn't going to stop being a surgeon because somebody didn't like me. That was one. But two, it's a very redneck area.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just sort of the beginning of AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember standing in line for something. It was the CPR class.
Right.
And the doctor behind me said, I should go in front of you because you could have AIDS. And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, lesbians don't have AIDS. And I don't know what you did on your lunch hour.
Good for you.
And the whole place broke up laughing because he was rather promiscuous. But that took care of that.
He didn't send you any referrals?
No, he never sent me a referral ever. But I would say I had many physicians who did send me referrals orthopedically. And then when I fell and broke my wrist and I couldn't use it strong enough to do orthopedics, I did diagnostic orthopedics with pain management.
Mm-hmm.
And I had more person-to-person referrals than doctor referrals. Patient-to-patient referrals. Doctors are still sort of overrun by the government in pain management.
Mm-hmm.
And a real negative impression.
That's why we plan to do a roundtable with you and Jennifer Black and some of the nurses.
I mean, when you have my patients in pain management were really, most of them were elderly, from certainly 75 to 90, and had injuries or back disease that they could not get around. So you give them a little medication and they can get going. They can get up in the morning, take care of their dog, get in the car, go grocery shopping.
Have a life.
Have a life. Where if they don't have medication, they can't do that. And it just doesn't make sense that the government should be into it so far, so deeply. I never had a problem with the government, but they're really anti-pain medication.
Mm-hmm.
You can have any kind of heart medication you want, but don't ask for a mild pain medication. And in the entire time I did it, and I did a lot of post-operative management in the extended care facility, I never saw anybody get addicted. They didn't have pain, they didn't need the medication. It's that simple. Do you remember anybody?
None. And for point of clarification, in 1994, there was an earthquake here. Prior to that, Marge and I worked back and forth between here and Los Angeles. I was doing counseling. She was doing orthopedic surgery, but I worked in the emergency room with her, which I liked. and the operating room. I was not the best assistant, which I think I mentioned, because I wanted to see what was going on. Being an assistant is sort of boring. Anyway, but we managed to get through it. So then I worked with her full time, and you are the best doctor I've ever known.
Well,
And
thank
I've
you.
known a lot of them. And the patients really appreciated that. They knew you'd listen to them. The staff loved to work with you. They were proud of their, to say, I work with Dr. Elfering.
Well-
Your compassion, your knowledge, you didn't jump to conclusions. And, you know, I'm honored to know you as a physician. Yes, as my lover and my partner, that too, but this is separate. I'm proud of you.
Well, one of the things I used to tell my staff, I don't know if you heard me, I'd take them aside and I say, that patient that comes to the front desk, all angry and hostile about whatever, is usually, number one, in pain, and number two, if you treat them like your favorite aunt or favorite uncle, they'll quiet down and you'll get the problem solved. And they would.
Mm-hmm.
They'd hang in there and treat that patient reasonably.
They were very professional. The staff was great.
Yeah, they were really good. And but they knew that I wouldn't tolerate any of that rude stuff that I see now.
We didn't have complaints from the patients. Once they got into the mix, they were really delighted to be there. They didn't want to be there, but they had to, and it worked for them.
Yeah. Well, it's not fun to go to the doctor,
Oh, no.
but if you have to go, at least
Do
you're
it.
treated like a human being and respected and looked at what your disease or problem is doing to your life.
So in closing, I'm going to ask you that question. If you knew that your death was imminent, what would you like your legacy to include? What would you like to be remembered for?
Well, I've heard a lot of people say kindness,
Mm-hmm.
but I think remembered for respecting the other person,
Mm-hmm.
respecting their intelligence. A patient usually will tell me what the disease process is and what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
If I listen. If I don't listen, I don't hear it.
You're stuck.
I'm stuck.
Mm-hmm.
But to remember that I respected them.
In kind, you receive that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to do this.